Hey guys, tonight we begin with something a little different. A journey back to a time before the supermarkets, before the faucet, before any of the luxuries we take for granted every single day. We're diving into the world of Native American water practices, a world where every drop mattered and every decision about water was a matter of life and death. Forget the bottled water and fancy purification systems. This is about how people survived, how they thrived, and how they made sure that the water they drank wouldn't kill them. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like this video and subscribe if you genuinely enjoy these sleepy, historical rabbit holes. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. I always find it fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You've just woken up in a different world, a world where nature is both your provider and your constant test. The good news? You're alive. The bad news? You're surrounded by the wild. Rivers that can be sweet or deadly. Springs that might look clear but hide illness. And a landscape that demands respect and cunning. There's no running water in your home. In fact, there's no home in the sense you know it. No flush toilets, no ice cubes tinkling in your glass. Your family's survival depends on finding clean water every single day, and that's no small task. You blink awake in a world where the dew on the grass is a sign, the movement of birds a clue, and the taste of the earth itself is your guide to whether you'll live to see another sunrise. You're part of a community that doesn't just see water as something to drink. It's sacred, it's alive, and it's part of every story told around the fire at night. Your people have spent generations learning where to find the safest streams, which springs stay fresh even in the heat of summer, and how to purify water when the earth itself seems to conspire against you. It's a world of boiling stones, of filtering through sand and charcoal, of reading the landscape like a living map. And this isn't just about survival. It's about ceremony, about respect, about the quiet understanding that water is life and must be honored as such. There are no steel kettles here, no plastic water bottles. Your water comes in carefully crafted clay pots, in hollowed-out gourds, in the sap of birch trees in the springtime. You're living in a time when water is a teacher, showing you the rhythms of the land and the balance between taking and giving back. And it's not easy. Some rivers run clear but hold invisible threats, while others that look muddy may be the safest source around. It's a daily dance, a ritual of observation and intuition, of listening to the elders and to the land itself. As you sit by the riverbank, you hear the stories of your ancestors, tales of great droughts and the ways they learned to save water, of ice-cold springs that never run dry, even in the harshest winters. Every sip you take is a link in a chain that stretches back through centuries of wisdom and careful practice. This first part of our journey isn't just about facts. It's about setting the stage for a world where water was never just water. It was a friend and a foe, a test of your skill and a measure of your respect for the earth. So tonight, as we start this gentle journey into the past, let yourself sink into the quiet power of these stories. Let the steady sound of water, real or imagined, wash over you as you drift into sleep. And remember that in this world, each drop is precious, each drink a miracle, and every moment by the water's edge is a reminder of how deeply intertwined we all are with the life-giving flow that connects us all. Let's begin. Across the vast expanse of North America, water shaped the daily life of every Native American community, weaving through their stories, their rituals, and their survival strategies. But water was never a constant, nor was it always kind. The landscape was as varied and unpredictable as the weather itself, and so the search for safe water became a practice of both patience and precision. In the Southwest, wide-open deserts stretched for miles beneath a blazing sun, where water sources were few and fiercely protected. Here, tribes like the Hopi and the Navajo knew the subtle signs of life beneath the harsh terrain, places where green growth hinted at springs hidden below, or where certain rock formations signaled the presence of seeps that might sustain a traveler on a long journey. In the forests of the Pacific Northwest, water was everywhere in abundance, rivers rushing down mountainsides, rainfall so constant it became a drumbeat against cedar bark homes. But even in this water-rich world, there were dangers. Streams could flood their banks in an instant, turning trails into quagmires, and water that pooled in the shade of ancient trees could be tainted by decaying leaves and animal droppings, carrying disease to the unwary. In the Great Plains, where the land rolled on in endless waves of grass, rivers and creeks carved deep channels into the earth. These waterways were lifelines, but they were also fickle. Spring floods could wash away entire camps, while summer droughts could turn a promising stream into a dry ribbon of cracked mud, leaving only the memory of water behind. In the far north, the landscape was shaped by ice and snow, with rivers locked in frozen silence for half the year. Here, native peoples like the Inuit learned to read the ice itself, to recognize where fresh water pooled beneath the snow, or where the melt of spring would open new sources of life. They knew how to melt snow carefully, avoiding the bitterness of brackish runoff, and how to find fresh water in the midst of an icy wilderness. Each of these landscapes carried its own challenges, and so each community developed its own knowledge. Wisdom born of centuries of watching the land and learning its rhythms. Some tribes found water in unlikely places, like the dew that gathered in the morning on broad leaves, or the tiny springs that emerged from cracks in canyon walls. Others learned that water could be stored in the very bodies of plants, tapping the roots of trees, or the swollen stems of cacti to find precious moisture when the world seemed dry as dust. And everywhere, there was the careful practice of testing and observing, tasting the water, watching how animals approached it, and noting the clarity and movement of each source. Clear water was not always safe, and water that looked muddy might be cleaner than it seemed. It was a world where knowledge of water was as essential as knowledge of the hunt or the planting of crops, where the difference between life and death could be as simple as knowing which spring was still sweet after the rains and which had turned bitter with the growth of algae and bacteria. The challenges of water shaped not just survival, but culture itself. Water was woven into songs and stories, honored in ceremonies that recognized its power and its gifts. It was carried carefully in baskets, woven tight against the leak, stored in clay pots whose design spoke of the balance between utility and beauty. Children learned from their elders how to read the land for water, how to approach it with respect and caution, how to offer thanks for every drop that sustained their lives. The landscape, in all its harshness and all its beauty, was both a teacher and a test. For every river that sang with life, there was a stagnant pool that could bring sickness. For every spring that flowed sweet and clear, there was another that ran dry when it was needed most. And so, in this world, water was never taken for granted. It was a daily quest, a sacred duty, and a reminder that survival depended on harmony with the land and its ever-changing moods. Even as the world slept beneath the stars, the quiet work of water gathering continued. A mother rising in the pre-dawn dark to fetch water for the morning meal. A scout moving ahead of the band to find the next safe stream. The landscape of water challenges was a landscape of constant movement and adaptation, where the search for safe water was as much a part of life as the beating of a heart. And in that search, there was a profound respect for the forces that shaped the land and the rivers that flowed through it, a respect that carried through generations and still speaks to us in quiet ways, even now. One of the most crucial aspects of survival for Native American communities was knowing how to identify safe water sources. This was not a matter of simple guesswork. It required generations of experience and a deep understanding of the environment. Native peoples learned to trust certain signs in the land and the behavior of animals to determine whether water was drinkable. For example, clear, fast-flowing streams were often preferred because they were less likely to harbor harmful bacteria or parasites compared to stagnant pools or slow-moving water. The clarity and taste of water were also tested directly. People would take small sips to ensure the water did not have an unusual taste or odor that could indicate contamination by decaying matter or mineral runoff. Additionally, careful observation of the plants and animals near water sources provided valuable clues. If birds and mammals drank from a particular spring or pool, it was generally considered safer for humans as well. However, Native communities were also aware that some animals could tolerate water that was harmful to people, so they looked for patterns of repeated use by multiple animal species, not just one. In desert regions, for instance, water might be scarce, so even small seeps in rock faces or water trapped in natural basins were prized. Desert plants like willows and cottonwoods often grew near underground water sources, and Native peoples learned to spot these signs from a distance. Beyond observation, Native American tribes developed strategies to make water safer when its quality was uncertain. In many regions, water was boiled using hot stones placed in baskets or clay pots, a practice that helped kill some of the harmful microorganisms that could cause disease. In other cases, natural filters such as sand or charcoal were used to strain out visible impurities. This knowledge wasn't accidental. It was carefully passed down through oral tradition, shared in stories and daily practice. Water was never taken for granted. It was tested, protected, and treated with care because the health of the entire community depended on it. Importantly, the way Native communities approached water safety reflected their broader respect for the natural world. Water wasn't just a resource, it was a sacred part of the ecosystem, and it required stewardship. Springs were often considered gifts from the earth, and special rituals or offerings were sometimes made to honor the water's life-giving power. Seasonal patterns and weather changes were also closely watched. Heavy rains could wash contaminants into water sources, and melting snow could change the clarity or taste of a stream. Native communities understood these cycles and adjusted their behavior to ensure that they did not drink water that could harm them or their families. This careful relationship with water sources was one of the reasons that Native American tribes were able to thrive in such diverse environments, from arid deserts to forested valleys. Their understanding of the land and their ability to read the subtle signs of water safety was a testament to their adaptability and deep respect for the balance of nature. Every water source was a potential lifeline, and every decision about where to drink was made with the weight of tradition, experience, and the well-being of the whole community in mind. Securing safe water wasn't just about finding it. It was equally important to know how to transport and store it without losing precious drops or contaminating the supply. Native American communities developed a variety of ingenious containers suited to their environment and resources. These vessels ranged from woven baskets coated in pitch to watertight clay pots, each designed with practical needs and cultural significance in mind. In the arid Southwest, for instance, tribes like the Hopi and Zuni created beautiful pottery with coiled clay, fired in open-air kilns. These clay pots, often decorated with symbolic patterns, weren't just for cooking or serving food, they were also used to store water. The slight porosity of the clay allowed some evaporation, which helped keep water cool even in the desert heat. These pots could be sealed with wooden lids or woven covers to prevent contamination by insects or dust. In forested regions with abundant plant resources, waterproof baskets were common. Tribes like the Pomo and Apache crafted baskets from willow, sumac, or pine needles, using a weaving technique so tight that the baskets could hold water once coated with natural sealants. Pine pitch or sap was carefully heated and applied to create a watertight interior, ensuring the basket could transport water from a stream back to the village. These baskets were lightweight and durable, perfect for daily use in areas with uneven terrain. For shorter journeys or quick drinking, Native Americans often used natural materials directly from the landscape. In areas with large gourds, hollowed and dried gourds served as canteens, lightweight and easy to carry. In other places, animal bladders or stomachs were cleaned and prepared to carry water in a flexible, portable container. These materials were valued not just for their function, but for their connection to the animals and plants of the region, reflecting a deep sense of interconnectedness. Long-term water storage posed another challenge, particularly in dry climates where rainfall was scarce. In some desert regions, families dug shallow cisterns lined with stone or clay to collect and store rainwater, carefully managing every drop. In the winter, snow was melted and stored in large pots, often kept indoors to protect it from freezing temperatures. These practices meant that even in the hottest or coldest months, there was always a plan to ensure water was available. Every container, from the smallest gourd to the largest clay jar, was treated with care. Vessels were cleaned regularly, and many communities used specific herbs or natural materials to scrub the inside of containers to help keep them free from algae or bacteria. People also understood the importance of rotating stored water to ensure freshness. New water would be added, while older water was used first, an early understanding of maintaining a healthy water supply. These water containers were more than simple tools. They were part of daily life and woven into family and community traditions. Designs and techniques were passed from one generation to the next, with each basket or pot carrying not only water, but the legacy of those who had come before. The crafting of a new container was a communal effort, an act of care that recognized how essential water was to every aspect of life. Through all these practices, Native American tribes demonstrated a profound respect for water and the tools that made it accessible. The development of these containers reflects a thoughtful balance of innovation and tradition, a balance that allowed communities to thrive in landscapes where water wasn't always easy to find. Even today, these traditional water vessels continue to inspire artists and historians, reminding us of the enduring importance of ingenuity and respect in the quest for survival. The rhythms of the seasons played a crucial role in how Native American communities approached their water needs. Each season brought its own set of challenges and opportunities, shaping the strategies that ensured survival and comfort throughout the year. As the landscape shifted with the turning of the sun, so too did the relationship people had with water, adapting in ways that reflected an intimate understanding of their environment. During spring, melting snow and increased rainfall often meant that rivers and streams ran high and fast. This abundance of water was welcomed after the long winter months when access to liquid water could be limited by freezing temperatures. Native communities used this time to replenish their water stores, gathering fresh water to last through the unpredictable weather of early spring. They also took advantage of these high waters to travel by canoe in regions where waterways became easier to navigate as the ice melted and the flow increased. This season was seen as a time of renewal, with clean, cold water flowing freely once again. In summer, the challenges of water became more pronounced. As temperatures rose, rivers could shrink, and smaller streams might dry up completely. This was particularly true in the arid Southwest, where every drop of water counted. Communities would wake early to fetch water in the cool hours of dawn, conserving their energy and reducing the risk of heat-related illness. Water was stored carefully, and activities that required significant water, like cooking and washing, were often adapted to make the most of what was available. Some communities traveled to summer camps located closer to reliable water sources, ensuring they could continue their daily lives without depleting local springs or streams. Fall brought its own transitions. As the rains returned to some areas, water sources swelled again. But there was also the need to prepare for winter's approach. Water was gathered and stored in larger quantities, and families worked to repair or replace any water containers that had worn out during the summer months. In forested regions, autumn was a time of foraging for nuts and berries, activities often done near water sources to ensure hydration during long hours of gathering. The return of cooler weather also meant that water stored in clay pots or animal bladders was less likely to spoil quickly, reducing the risk of illness. Winter presented some of the most significant challenges, especially in colder climates where rivers froze solid and snow covered the landscape. In these months, water was often obtained by melting snow or ice. This process required careful attention. Snow had to be collected from clean areas, away from animal tracks or smoke from fires, to avoid contamination. Melting was done slowly to conserve fuel, often using hot stones to heat water in tightly woven baskets or clay pots. Some communities took advantage of naturally occurring springs that continued to flow even in the coldest months, marking these locations as vital winter water sources. Knowledge of these year-round springs was often passed down through generations, ensuring that families knew where to find liquid water, even when the rest of the world was locked in ice. Throughout the seasons, water use was closely tied to the rhythms of daily life. Cooking, bathing, and cleaning all required careful planning to balance the needs of the household with the realities of the environment. Water for drinking and cooking was prioritized, while other uses were adapted to fit the availability of water. Waste was managed carefully to avoid contaminating these precious supplies, a practice that not only ensured health, but reflected a deep respect for the gift of water itself. These seasonal adaptations highlight how Native American communities maintained a sustainable relationship with water. Rather than fighting against the changing landscape, they learned to move with it, developing flexible practices that allowed them to thrive. This approach fostered a culture of resourcefulness and respect, values that continue to resonate today as people seek to live more harmoniously with the natural world. In each season, water remained a constant concern and a constant source of life, shaping not just survival, but the very rhythms of community and tradition. Ensuring that drinking water was safe was a critical concern for Native American communities, as untreated water could carry dangerous pathogens and parasites. Over time, various purification techniques were developed and refined, drawing on natural resources and a practical understanding of waterborne risks. One of the most common methods was boiling water. While the process of boiling water is straightforward today, Native Americans ingeniously used heated stones placed into water-filled containers made from bark, wood, clay, or woven baskets coated with pitch. Stones were heated in a fire until red hot and then carefully dropped into the water, raising its temperature to a boil or near boil without the container itself needing to withstand direct fire. This method helped kill many bacteria and parasites that could cause illness, making water safer to drink. In addition to boiling, some tribes used natural filtering techniques. Water was poured through layers of sand, charcoal, or fine gravel to remove visible debris and some impurities. Charcoal, in particular, was valued for its ability to absorb toxins and improve the taste of water. These filters were rudimentary but effective, relying on materials readily available in the environment. This practice reflected a practical and intuitive knowledge of how to improve water quality beyond simple collection. Certain plants were also used for water purification. Some tribes crushed seeds or leaves of specific plants and added them to water, causing suspended particles and contaminants to clump together and settle at the bottom, a natural form of coagulation and sedimentation. After allowing the water to sit, clearer water could be poured off the top, reducing the risk of drinking contaminated water. This process demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of natural chemistry and the behavior of impurities in water. Sunlight exposure was another method employed in some regions. Clear containers or shallow basins were filled with water and left in direct sunlight for several hours. The ultraviolet rays from the sun helped reduce bacterial growth, a technique now recognized as solar disinfection. This simple, low-tech solution was particularly useful in sunny environments and required no additional fuel or equipment. Native communities also recognized that water quality could be affected by its source. For example, water from fast-moving mountain streams was generally safer than stagnant pools, which were more likely to harbor disease-causing organisms. Springs and wells were often preferred, and special care was taken to protect these sources from contamination by human or animal waste. This awareness led to practices such as designating specific areas for waste disposal away from water sources, helping to maintain cleaner water supplies. These purification techniques highlight the practical wisdom that Native Americans applied to everyday life. Water safety was not left to chance. It was managed through deliberate actions rooted in close observation and experimentation with natural resources. This knowledge was passed down through generations, often integrated into cultural teachings and daily routines. The goal was always to reduce the risk of illness while preserving the precious resource of clean water. The combination of boiling, filtering, plant-based purification, and sun exposure created a multifaceted approach that met the diverse needs of different environments and communities. By using what the land provided, Native Americans developed sustainable and effective methods to ensure their water was as safe as possible, a testament to their ingenuity and respect for the delicate balance between humans and nature. Water was much more than a physical necessity for Native American communities. It held profound spiritual significance. Across many tribes, water was viewed as a sacred element, embodying life, purity, and connection to the natural world. This spiritual relationship influenced how water was treated, protected, and honored in daily life. For many tribes, water was considered a living entity, a gift from the Creator or the spirit world. Rivers, lakes, springs, and rain were often associated with powerful deities or ancestral spirits. For example, the Navajo believe in the holy water as part of their healing ceremonies, emphasizing water's role in purification and renewal. Similarly, the Ojibwe and other Algonquian-speaking peoples hold water sacred in their Midewiwin ceremonies, which involve water prayers and offerings to maintain balance and harmony. This reverence extended to practical water use as well. There were customs and rituals designed to show respect when collecting water, such as offering tobacco or prayers before drawing water from a spring or river. These acts acknowledged water's life-giving power and reminded the community to use it wisely and with gratitude. It was understood that water should never be wasted or polluted, and that misuse could bring spiritual consequences not only to individuals, but to the whole community. Water also featured prominently in purification rituals. Many tribes used water for cleansing the body, mind, and spirit during important ceremonies, including rites of passage, healing, and seasonal festivals. Sweat lodges, for example, utilized water to create steam as part of spiritual and physical purification, reinforcing the connection between water, health, and sacred practice. Similarly, water was used to bless new homes, tools, or hunting grounds, symbolizing protection and the continuation of life. In storytelling and oral traditions, water often appears as a symbol of transformation and renewal. Flood myths, creation stories involving rivers or oceans, and tales of water spirits were common motifs that communicated cultural values and cosmology. These stories taught lessons about respect, balance, and the consequences of human actions on the natural world. The spiritual significance of water also influenced environmental stewardship. Protecting water sources from contamination was not only a health issue, but a moral one. Communities developed laws and customs to safeguard rivers and lakes, sometimes establishing protected areas or designating guardians for important springs. This cultural framework helped ensure that water resources were sustained for future generations, blending practical conservation with spiritual responsibility. Overall, water's role in Native American spirituality highlights a worldview that sees humans as part of a larger web of life, where every element, including water, has intrinsic value. This deep respect shaped behaviors around water collection, use, and protection, fostering sustainable practices long before modern environmental science. Water was an essential resource, not only for drinking, but also for agriculture and food preparation among Native American communities. The ways in which various tribes managed and utilized water for growing crops, hunting, fishing, and cooking demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of their environments and a deep respect for the delicate balance of nature. Agriculture was central to the survival of many Native American societies, especially in regions with fertile soil and predictable rainfall patterns. The three sisters, corn, beans, and squash, formed the backbone of many agricultural systems, particularly among tribes in the eastern woodlands and the southwest. Each of these crops required adequate water to thrive, but efficient use of water was crucial, especially in arid or semi-arid regions. Native peoples developed numerous irrigation techniques, water conservation practices, and soil management strategies to maximize crop yields while minimizing water waste. In the Southwest, tribes like the Hopi, Zuni, and Pueblo peoples engineered complex irrigation systems to capture and channel scarce water. They built check dams, canals, and terraces to slow the flow of seasonal rains, directing water toward their fields and reducing soil erosion. These structures not only preserved precious water, but also allowed the cultivation of crops in environments where rainfall was erratic and temperatures were extreme. Water was carefully timed and measured, ensuring that the three sisters grew in harmony. Corn stalks provided support for beans, beans enriched the soil with nitrogen, and squash spread wide to shade the soil and reduce evaporation. In the Mississippi Valley and eastern woodlands, tribes took advantage of naturally moist soils along rivers and floodplains. The annual flooding deposited nutrient-rich silt, replenishing the soil and creating fertile ground for crops. Here, water was less scarce, but still managed carefully. Raised beds and mounded rows helped crops avoid waterlogging, and water sources were monitored to avoid contamination. These practices ensured sustainable farming and allowed communities to support large populations. Water's role extended beyond irrigation to food preparation and preservation. Many traditional cooking methods involved soaking, boiling, and steaming foods, all of which required reliable access to water. For example, acorns, a staple in many native diets, had to be leached in water to remove bitter tannins before they could be eaten safely. This process often required multiple changes of water and careful attention, demonstrating an intimate knowledge of how water could transform food from inedible to nourishing. Fishing and hunting also depended heavily on water availability and management. Tribes living near rivers, lakes, and coastal areas developed specialized techniques to catch fish and aquatic animals, often using natural waterways as traps or fishing grounds. For example, the use of fish weirs, barriers built across streams to guide fish into traps, showcases an early form of water management designed to sustain food resources without overharvesting. Some groups also practiced seasonal fishing, coordinating their efforts with fish migrations and spawning cycles to ensure the health of aquatic populations. Water was also essential in food preservation techniques such as drying, smoking, and fermenting. After fishing or hunting, Fresh water was used to clean the catch and prepare it for preservation. Fermented foods, prized for their nutritional value and storage life, often involved the careful use of water mixed with natural salts and herbs. These methods allowed communities to store food for leaner months, ensuring survival during times when fresh water and fresh food might be scarce. Furthermore, the way water was integrated into daily food routines reflected a holistic understanding of its importance. Preparing meals wasn't just a physical act, but a communal one, often accompanied by rituals and gratitude for the water that made nourishment possible. Sharing water and food strengthened social bonds and reinforced the cultural values that prioritized respect for natural resources and collective well-being. In summary, water was a cornerstone of Native American agricultural success and food culture. From the ingenious irrigation systems of the Southwest to the seasonal harvesting practices in river valleys, water management was an essential part of sustainable living. The use of water in food preparation, preservation, and communal sharing further illustrates its central role in daily life. These traditions, passed down through generations, reveal a profound connection between people, water, and the land that sustained them. Continuing from the earlier discussion on how water was integral to agriculture and food preparation, it's important to delve deeper into the nuanced ways Native American communities adapted to their local environments, ensuring food security while respecting the natural water cycles. In many arid regions, such as parts of the Southwest and Great Basin, water scarcity posed a significant challenge. To combat this, tribes developed advanced rainwater harvesting techniques that allowed them to capture and store precious rainfall during the brief wet seasons. Some communities constructed small, carefully placed basins or pits that collected rainwater and runoff, which was then used to irrigate crops during drier periods. These methods were low-tech, yet remarkably effective, demonstrating a deep understanding of their environment and hydrology. In areas where natural springs or seeps provided a constant water source, irrigation systems were often supplemented with channels and ditches to distribute water evenly across the fields. This careful distribution prevented waterlogging and soil erosion, which could degrade the land over time. Native Americans' attention to soil health and water balance ensured that their agricultural practices were sustainable, often supporting the same lands for generations without depletion. The knowledge of plant-water relationships was also essential. For example, some crops were strategically planted to maximize water use efficiency. Corn's tall stalks would shade the soil, reducing evaporation, while beans enriched the soil, reducing the need for additional water or fertilizers. Squash leaves sprawled along the ground, protecting soil moisture and suppressing weeds. This intercropping, combined with precise water management, created a resilient agricultural system that thrived even under challenging climatic conditions. Water was also a key element in traditional cooking practices beyond the leaching of acorns. Many indigenous groups made use of earth ovens, pits dug into the ground and lined with heated stones, where food was slow cooked with steam and moisture. Water poured over the hot stones generated steam that tenderized tough roots, tubers, and game meat, turning them into nourishing meals. This cooking method was energy efficient and maximized the use of available water and heat, a testament to resourceful food preparation. In colder climates, like those of the Pacific Northwest and parts of the Northern Plains, water was abundant year-round, but its quality and availability still required careful management. Here, fish, especially salmon, formed a dietary cornerstone. Native peoples timed their fishing activities with seasonal salmon runs, often relying on nearby rivers and estuaries. Water played a vital role not only in harvesting, but also in processing fish. Fish were cleaned, soaked, and sometimes fermented in water mixed with natural salts to preserve them for long periods, ensuring a stable food supply throughout the year. Water's importance extended to the social and ceremonial aspects of food preparation. Many tribes considered water an integral part of the cycle of life and sustenance. It was common for ceremonies and rituals to accompany planting, harvesting, and food preparation, where water was used symbolically to bless the land, the crops, and the people. These rituals reinforced community bonds and expressed gratitude for water's life-sustaining qualities. Throughout all these practices, Native American tribes displayed a profound respect for the water that nourished their crops, animals, and people. Their agricultural systems were not merely about survival, but about maintaining harmony with the land and water. The integration of spiritual values with practical water management created a sustainable way of life that balanced human needs with environmental stewardship. As modern agriculture grapples with water scarcity and sustainability challenges, these indigenous water management practices offer valuable lessons. They remind us that effective stewardship comes from deep knowledge of local ecosystems, respect for natural cycles, and the willingness to adapt thoughtfully to changing conditions. The legacy of Native American water use in agriculture and food preparation is a testament to human ingenuity and resilience, shaped by centuries of living closely with the land. Long before modern plumbing and water tanks, Native American communities devised innovative ways to store and transport water safely and efficiently. These methods were critical to survival, especially in areas where water sources were seasonal or distant from villages. The ingenuity and resourcefulness behind these practices highlight the deep connection between people and their environment. Water storage was often tailored to the natural resources available in a particular region. In forested areas, tribes commonly used containers made from hollowed-out tree trunks or large wooden vessels crafted with bark or woven fibers. Birch bark, for example, was prized by many northern and eastern tribes for its lightweight, waterproof qualities. Skilled artisans could shape and seal birch bark into buckets, canteens, and even watertight containers large enough to store substantial amounts of water. These containers were not only functional, but also durable and relatively easy to carry. In the arid Southwest, where wood was scarcer, water storage solutions leaned more heavily on ceramics and natural materials such as animal hides and woven baskets treated with pitch or resin to make them waterproof. Clay pots and jars were commonly used for storing water. These vessels were carefully crafted and often placed in shaded, cool areas to keep the water from overheating, as excessive heat could encourage bacterial growth. In some Pueblo communities, underground storage pits were also used to keep water cool and reduce evaporation. Animal skins were another versatile material for water transportation and storage. Large animal bladders and stomachs were cleaned and repurposed as water bags. These containers were lightweight and flexible, ideal for carrying water over long distances during travel or hunting expeditions. However, they required regular maintenance to prevent leaks and spoilage, demonstrating the ongoing labor involved in managing water resources. Transporting water was often a communal effort, especially in larger villages or during seasonal migrations. Water carriers, often women and children, would travel to rivers, springs, or wells with their containers, sometimes covering miles each day. The journey required endurance and knowledge of safe water sources, including those less accessible but cleaner or more reliable. These daily treks underscore the central role water played in daily life and the communal responsibility for its procurement. In some regions, water transportation extended to using natural waterways themselves. Canoes and dugout boats allowed tribes to move water containers and other goods efficiently along rivers and lakes. This mode of transport was especially significant for communities living near extensive river systems, such as the tribes of the Pacific Northwest and the Mississippi River Valley. Water routes doubled as trade and communication pathways, linking villages and facilitating resource sharing, including water. Native Americans also developed creative ways to protect stored water from contamination and evaporation. Covers made from woven mats, leaves, or animal hides helped keep debris and insects out of water containers. Additionally, storage areas were often situated away from cooking fires and refuse to reduce the risk of pollution. In some cases, communal water storage pits or cisterns were constructed with stone or clay linings, carefully maintained to prevent seepage and contamination. These storage and transportation systems were more than just practical solutions. They reflected a sophisticated understanding of the challenges posed by different climates and landscapes. They also underscored the value placed on water as a precious resource, not to be taken for granted. By adapting their methods to local conditions and materials, Native American communities demonstrated sustainable water management practices that prioritized conservation and accessibility. Water storage and transport methods also had cultural and social significance. For example, the task of carrying water was often embedded in social roles and rituals, linking it to community identity and continuity. The knowledge required to create and maintain containers, identify safe sources, and navigate the landscape was passed down through generations, forming a vital part of oral traditions and cultural heritage. In summary, Native American water storage and transportation methods were diverse, regionally adapted, and deeply integrated into daily life. From birch bark canteens to underground cisterns, these systems ensured that water was available when and where it was needed, despite environmental challenges. This legacy of innovation and respect for water continues to inspire modern approaches to sustainable water use and management. Building on the earlier discussion of Native American water storage and transportation, it's important to highlight some of the specific regional adaptations and the cultural practices that surrounded these essential activities. In the Great Plains, where water was often scarce and dispersed, tribes like the Lakota and Cheyenne relied heavily on both natural water sources and ingenious storage solutions. Water had to be carried over long distances during seasonal movements following bison herds, making portability crucial. The use of rawhide water bags, often made from buffalo or deer hides, was widespread. These containers were treated and sewn carefully to ensure they were watertight and durable. Their lightweight design made them ideal for nomadic lifestyles, as they could be slung over the shoulder or attached to pack animals. Beyond practicality, these water bags often held symbolic value, sometimes decorated with painted designs or attached with charms to invoke protection or good fortune on journeys. In the Pacific Northwest, The abundance of freshwater sources such as rivers, lakes, and rainfall shaped different water management practices. Although water was more accessible, the region's wet climate posed challenges for water storage, particularly preventing contamination and preserving water quality over time. Cedar wood, abundant in the region, was used to make large, watertight containers and barrels. These cedar vessels were naturally resistant to decay and could be sealed with pitch derived from local trees to prevent leaks. Water stored in these containers was often reserved for ceremonial use or for guests, reflecting the cultural importance of water as a sacred gift. Ceremonial use of water also influenced how it was stored and transported. In many Native American cultures, water used in rituals had to be collected, stored, and handled with great care to maintain its purity and spiritual power. Special containers, sometimes made from carved wood or decorated pottery, were reserved for this purpose. Water might be collected from specific sacred springs or during particular times, such as after a rainstorm or during seasonal changes, enhancing its symbolic meaning. Handling this water involved strict protocols, including prayers or offerings, highlighting the intersection of practical water management with spiritual reverence. The seasonal availability of water also shaped storage strategies. In desert regions, tribes like the Mojave or Apache sometimes relied on natural cisterns, rock basins, or depressions that collected rainwater during monsoon seasons. These natural catchments were cleaned and maintained regularly, ensuring the water remained drinkable for months. In some cases, artificial cisterns were dug and lined with clay to increase water retention. The maintenance of these water sources was a communal responsibility, critical to survival during dry months. Water transportation in some regions also utilized pack animals, including dogs, before the introduction of horses. Dogs were trained to carry small water bags on their backs, enabling hunters and travelers to carry sufficient water for long journeys. This practical adaptation showed the integration of animal domestication with water logistics. In addition to storage and transportation, Native Americans developed techniques to monitor and protect their water supplies. Knowledge about where water could be found underground or how to locate hidden springs was passed down through oral tradition and experience. Certain landmarks, such as specific trees or rock formations, were known indicators of nearby water. Protecting these sources from contamination was essential, and tribes often had rules prohibiting waste disposal or hunting near water sources to preserve water quality. The environmental knowledge embedded in these practices was remarkable. It allowed tribes to thrive in diverse landscapes, from arid deserts to lush forests, without depleting their water resources. This balance was maintained through constant observation, adaptation, and respect for nature's limits. In conclusion, the traditional water storage and transportation methods of Native American peoples were a product of deep environmental knowledge, resourcefulness, and cultural values. These practices ensured survival in often challenging environments while maintaining a respectful relationship with water as a vital and sacred resource. The legacy of these methods continues to influence modern water conservation efforts and serves as a reminder of the wisdom inherent in indigenous approaches to living sustainably with nature. Water was much more than a practical resource for Native American communities. It held profound spiritual significance and was deeply woven into their cosmologies, healing practices, and rituals. Understanding the sacred nature of water in indigenous cultures reveals a dimension of water that transcends survival. It is a source of life, renewal, and connection to the spiritual world. Many Native American tribes viewed water as a living entity, a powerful spirit that governed life and had the ability to purify, heal, and sustain balance in the world. Water was often personified in myths and stories as a deity or a sacred being, reflecting its vital role in the natural and spiritual order. For example, among the Pueblo peoples of the Southwest, water was linked with rain gods who controlled the life-giving rains essential for crops. These deities were honored through ceremonies intended to ensure rainfall and maintain harmony between humans and the environment. Sacred springs, rivers, lakes, and even certain wells were places of pilgrimage and worship. These bodies of water were believed to possess healing powers and were sites for spiritual cleansing and renewal. Many tribes conducted purification rituals involving water, such as sweat lodge ceremonies, where steam and water symbolized the cleansing of body and spirit. The water used in these rites was considered holy, often sourced from specific springs or gathered with prayer and respect. Healing traditions among Native Americans frequently involved water as a core element. Traditional healers or medicine people used water in a variety of ways. For washing wounds, mixing herbal medicines, or as a medium for spiritual healing ceremonies. Water was believed to carry prayers and intentions to the spirit world, facilitating communication and healing. The act of pouring water, sprinkling it, or immersing oneself in it was a form of physical and spiritual renewal. Some tribes practiced water-based divination and prophecy, using reflections on water surfaces or listening to the sounds of flowing water as ways to receive guidance from spirits. Water's movement and qualities symbolized change, flow, and the cyclical nature of life, helping individuals and communities align with natural rhythms. The symbolism of water also extended to life passages such as birth, puberty, marriage, and death. Water was often involved in rites of passage, symbolizing transition, growth, and the washing away of the old to welcome the new. For example, newborns might be ritually cleansed with water to ensure purity and protection. Similarly, at funerals, water could be used to purify the deceased's body or to mark boundaries between the worlds of the living and the dead. Water's role in spiritual life was closely linked to its physical importance. Without water, there was no life, no crops, no animals, no people. This fundamental truth led to cultural teachings emphasizing respect for water as a sacred gift, not a resource to be exploited recklessly. Many indigenous narratives teach stewardship of water, reminding communities of their responsibility to protect and honor this vital element for future generations. In practical terms, these spiritual beliefs influenced everyday behavior. Water sources were treated with reverence. Pollution or waste near springs or rivers was often taboo, and strict community rules protected water quality. These practices reinforced the idea that water was a communal treasure, essential to collective well-being and survival. The cultural respect for water also shaped how Native Americans adapted to environmental changes. For example, during times of drought, ceremonies and prayers for rain became communal events, uniting people in hope and resilience. The spiritual focus on water fostered a sense of humility and patience, encouraging sustainable use rather than desperate exploitation. In modern times, many Native American communities continue to uphold these spiritual traditions, emphasizing water protection and restoration as part of cultural revival and environmental activism. Efforts to defend sacred waters from pollution, dam construction, or extraction projects often draw on these ancient beliefs, highlighting water's sacred status as a powerful force for identity and resistance. The intertwining of water with spirituality and healing in Native American life offers a profound lesson about the inseparability of nature and culture. Water is not simply a commodity. It is a living presence that connects people to their ancestors, their communities, and the earth itself. This holistic view challenges contemporary societies to rethink relationships with water, emphasizing respect, care, and reverence. Building on the spiritual reverence for water, many Native American ceremonies involving water were communal events that reinforced social bonds and cultural continuity. Seasonal ceremonies such as the rain dances of the Plains tribes or the water ceremonies of the Hopi and Zuni peoples combined music, dance, prayer, and offerings to honor water spirits and invoke rain or clean water sources. These gatherings were not only religious observances, but also social occasions that strengthened community identity and transmitted cultural knowledge across generations. Water was also integral in the symbolism of balance and harmony central to many Native American worldviews. The concept of walking in balance or maintaining harmony with the natural world often involved respecting water's cycles, its ebb and flow, its ability to nurture and to cleanse. When communities disrupted this balance, whether through overuse of water or disrespect of sacred sites, it was believed that misfortune or illness might follow. Healing water, therefore, was not just a physical remedy, but a spiritual force that restored harmony to both individuals and the wider community. In traditional healing practices, water was combined with plants and minerals believed to possess medicinal properties. For example, certain herbal infusions made with water were drunk or used for bathing to treat ailments ranging from infections to spiritual afflictions. The preparation of these remedies was often accompanied by prayer and ritual, acknowledging the interconnectedness of body, spirit, and environment. Water served as the carrier of these healing properties, facilitating their absorption and effectiveness. Some Native American healers practiced sweat lodge ceremonies, where water poured over heated stones produced steam believed to purify the body and spirit. These intense, often communal experiences were designed to cleanse toxins, both physical and spiritual, and to renew the participants' connection to the natural and spiritual worlds. The sweat lodge itself, a dome-shaped structure made from wood and covered with hides or blankets, symbolized the womb of Mother Earth, and water was central in this process of rebirth and purification. Water also figured prominently in purification rituals beyond healing. Before important events, whether a hunt, a battle, or a ceremonial gathering, participants often performed cleansing rituals involving water to prepare themselves spiritually and physically. This practice underscored the belief that water could wash away impurities, negative energies, or obstacles, enabling individuals to enter new phases of life or challenge with clarity and strength. Across various tribes, water symbolism was deeply embedded in stories and myths that communicated moral lessons, creation narratives, and ecological knowledge. Water often represented the flow of life and time, the passage between worlds, and the sustenance that enabled all living things to thrive. These stories preserved respect for water and taught younger generations to honor and protect it as a sacred trust. In contemporary Native American activism, water's spiritual significance fuels efforts to protect natural water bodies from pollution, diversion, or destruction. Sacred sites such as rivers and springs are focal points in legal and environmental battles, reflecting ongoing struggles to safeguard water rights and ecological health. Water justice movements often emphasize indigenous knowledge systems and spiritual perspectives, highlighting how water is tied to cultural survival and sovereignty. The fusion of practical water use with spiritual reverence created a holistic relationship with water that was sustainable and life-affirming. This approach challenges modern societies to reconsider purely utilitarian views of water and to embrace a more integrated understanding that values water as a vital component of health, culture, and spirituality. In conclusion, the role of water in Native American spirituality and healing practices reveals a profound respect for this life-giving element. Water was seen as a sacred force, essential not only for physical survival, but also for spiritual balance and communal well-being. This reverence shaped cultural practices, social structures, and environmental stewardship, offering timeless lessons on the interconnectedness of people, water, and the earth. Water scarcity and quality were ongoing challenges for many Native American communities, especially in arid and semi-arid regions of North America. These challenges shaped not only survival strategies, but also cultural adaptations and innovations that allowed communities to thrive despite environmental hardships. The American Southwest, home to many Pueblo, Navajo, Hopi, and Apache tribes, is one of the driest regions on the continent. Here, access to reliable water sources was limited, and rainfall was unpredictable. Droughts could last for years, making water a precious and sometimes elusive commodity. Native peoples responded by developing complex systems to capture, store, and distribute water efficiently. For example, the Pueblo peoples engineered extensive networks of canals, ditches, and reservoirs to collect seasonal rains and runoff. These irrigation systems supported agriculture by channeling water to fields growing corn, beans, and squash, the Three Sisters crops fundamental to their diet and culture. Another ingenious adaptation was the use of water harvesting techniques. Rock terraces and check dams slowed water runoff on slopes, allowing moisture to seep into the soil and nourish plants. These techniques reduced erosion and maximized water retention in challenging landscapes. In some areas, underground cisterns collected rainwater for household use during dry spells. The Navajo, traditionally semi-nomadic pastoralists, developed other strategies, including knowledge of natural springs and wells that were reliable even during droughts. They combined this knowledge with seasonal migrations to follow water and grazing lands for their livestock. This mobility was a key survival strategy, allowing adaptation to changing water availability. Water quality was another concern. In many regions, natural water sources were contaminated with minerals, bacteria, or pollutants from animal activity. Boiling water before drinking was a common practice among many tribes to reduce the risk of waterborne illnesses. Additionally, certain plants and natural substances were used to purify or clarify water. For example, some tribes used crushed seeds or roots known for their coagulant properties, which helped settle suspended particles in water, making it clearer and safer to drink. Waterborne diseases posed significant threats, especially as European contact introduced new pathogens. However, Native American health practices included not only physical treatments, but also spiritual interventions aimed at maintaining balance and preventing illness. Maintaining clean water sources and hygiene was often linked to ritual purity, reflecting the holistic view of health that combined body, mind, and spirit. In more humid regions such as the eastern woodlands, water abundance did not eliminate challenges. Flooding could damage crops and settlements, requiring effective drainage and settlement planning. The Iroquois and other tribes constructed villages on raised ground or built mounds to protect against flooding. They also carefully managed wetlands and riverbanks to minimize erosion and maintain water quality. Seasonal variations in water availability demanded flexible living patterns. Many tribes timed their activities, such as planting, hunting, and fishing, to align with water cycles. Seasonal migrations or temporary camps were common, allowing communities to access the best water sources throughout the year. Climate variability also influenced cultural practices and beliefs related to water. Droughts and floods were often interpreted through spiritual lenses, with ceremonies and prayers aimed at restoring balance. These responses reinforced social cohesion and the collective responsibility to care for water resources. The arrival of Europeans brought drastic changes. Settler agriculture, mining, and industrial activities altered water availability and quality, often to the detriment of native communities. Rivers were dammed, diverted, or polluted, disrupting traditional water systems and access. These impacts compounded existing challenges, threatening food security, health, and cultural practices tied to water. Despite these disruptions, many Native American communities have continued to adapt and fight for their water rights. Legal battles, advocacy for sustainable water management, and cultural revitalization efforts demonstrate ongoing resilience. Water remains central to identity, survival, and sovereignty. In conclusion, the water-related challenges faced by Native American communities have shaped their cultures and survival strategies in profound ways. Through innovation, adaptation, and deep ecological knowledge, indigenous peoples developed sustainable ways to manage scarce or variable water resources. Understanding these historical and ongoing challenges offers insight into the complex relationship between people and water in North America. As the environmental landscape changed drastically with European colonization and later industrialization, Native American communities faced not only natural water challenges, but also political and legal struggles to maintain control over their water resources. These struggles continue today, as indigenous peoples fight to protect water quality, access, and sovereignty in the face of external pressures. One of the most significant ongoing issues is the recognition and enforcement of Native American water rights. Many tribes hold water rights based on treaties, legal doctrines, and historical usage. However, these rights have often been ignored or undermined by state and federal governments, leading to conflicts over water allocation. The legal concept known as reserved water rights, or Winters' rights, established by the 1908 Winters v. United States Supreme Court decision, recognizes that tribes have rights to sufficient water to fulfill the purposes of their reservations. Despite this, actual access and control over water often remain contested. Numerous legal battles have been fought over water rights in the western United States, where water scarcity and competing demands are intense. tribes have sometimes had to negotiate or litigate to secure their water shares, which are vital for agriculture, domestic use, cultural practices, and economic development. These cases highlight the ongoing tension between indigenous sovereignty and non-indigenous water users, including agriculture, industry, and municipalities. Beyond legal battles, Native American communities have been leaders in innovative water management and environmental stewardship. Many tribes are engaged in projects to restore degraded waterways, protect wetlands, and revive traditional ecological knowledge that supports sustainable water use. These initiatives often combine scientific approaches with cultural values, emphasizing holistic management of watersheds rather than fragmented, utilitarian use. For example, the Karuk tribe of California has pioneered collaborative watershed restoration efforts on the Klamath River, working alongside federal agencies and other stakeholders to improve fish habitat, water quality, and ecosystem health. The tribe integrates traditional ecological knowledge with modern science to address the complex challenges facing their water resources. In the Great Lakes region, indigenous nations have worked to protect the water from pollution and invasive species, recognizing the lake system's importance for cultural and subsistence fishing. Treaties guaranteeing fishing rights are central to these efforts, linking legal frameworks to ecological stewardship. Water activism among Native American communities also often intersects with broader environmental justice movements. Indigenous peoples emphasize that water is a human right and a sacred trust, calling attention to the disproportionate impact of water contamination and scarcity on marginalized communities. This activism challenges prevailing economic and political systems that prioritize exploitation over sustainability. Education and cultural revitalization are crucial components of modern water management. Many tribes are revitalizing languages, ceremonies, and stories related to water, strengthening cultural identity and passing down knowledge about responsible water use. Youth engagement programs focus on connecting younger generations to their heritage and the environment, fostering stewardship for the future. The spiritual dimension of water remains central to these efforts. Sacred water sites continue to be places of prayer, ceremony, and resistance. Protecting these sites often involves confronting large-scale projects like pipelines, mining operations, or dam constructions that threaten water quality and access. The Standing Rock protests against the Dakota Access Pipeline are a powerful example of indigenous water defense that gained national and international attention. Furthermore, climate change poses new challenges for water availability and quality on many reservations and indigenous lands. Increased droughts, flooding, and shifting weather patterns exacerbate existing vulnerabilities. Native communities are actively engaging in climate resilience planning that incorporates traditional knowledge and adaptive management to safeguard their water resources. In sum, Native American struggles and innovations around water are ongoing and multifaceted. These efforts highlight the enduring connection between indigenous peoples and water as a source of life, culture, and sovereignty. Understanding these contemporary dynamics provides a fuller picture of water's significance beyond historical survival into the realm of rights, identity, and environmental justice. As we reach the final segment of this exploration into the role of water in Native American life, it's important to reflect on both the challenges that lie ahead and the hope embodied in indigenous resilience and innovation. water continues to be a vital element, not just physically, but culturally and spiritually, for Native American communities. How these communities navigate the future of water will have profound implications for their survival, identity, and sovereignty. One of the major ongoing challenges is the increasing impact of climate change on water resources. Across North America, changing precipitation patterns, rising temperatures, and extreme weather events are altering water availability. For many Native American reservations, especially those in the Southwest and other arid regions, drought conditions are worsening, threatening traditional agriculture, livestock, and daily water use. The decreased snowpack in mountainous regions means less spring and summer runoff, which many communities rely on for replenishing rivers and aquifers. Water contamination is another pressing concern. Industrial pollution, agricultural runoff, and aging infrastructure continue to threaten water quality on many reservations. Some Native communities rely on wells or surface water sources that are vulnerable to contamination from nearby mining operations, fracking, or chemical spills. Access to clean, safe drinking water remains an ongoing struggle in some areas, reminiscent of the hardships faced centuries ago. Despite these threats, indigenous peoples are leading innovative responses rooted in traditional knowledge and modern science. Many tribes are developing comprehensive water management plans that combine ancient ecological wisdom with contemporary technologies. These plans emphasize sustainability, respect for natural cycles, and community engagement. For example, water harvesting methods, once essential survival strategies, are being adapted with modern engineering to maximize efficiency. Rainwater capture, aquifer recharge, and wetland restoration are becoming key components of tribal environmental initiatives. These efforts not only help meet water needs, but also restore ecosystems that support fish, wildlife, and cultural practices. Youth education is central to this future vision. Many Native communities prioritize teaching younger generations about water stewardship, cultural traditions, and environmental science. Empowering youth ensures the continuity of water knowledge and the development of new leaders to advocate for their people's rights and resources. In addition to local efforts, Native American communities are forging partnerships with government agencies, environmental organizations, and universities to secure funding, research, and policy support. These collaborations often seek to address water challenges at the watershed level, recognizing that water systems cross political and geographic boundaries. Political advocacy remains crucial. Indigenous leaders continue to fight for legal recognition of water rights, protection of sacred water sites, and stronger environmental regulations. These efforts confront powerful economic interests and complex legal systems, but are essential for securing water justice. The spiritual connection to water persists as a source of strength and inspiration. Ceremonies, prayers, and cultural events that honor water reinforce community bonds and provide hope amid uncertainty. This spiritual dimension reminds us that water is not just a resource, but a sacred life force deserving respect and protection. Looking ahead, the integration of traditional water wisdom with innovative practices presents a promising path forward. This holistic approach can inform broader environmental policies, encouraging more sustainable and equitable water management beyond indigenous communities. In summary, while significant challenges remain, Native American communities are actively shaping the future of water through resilience, knowledge, and advocacy. Their experiences and perspectives offer vital lessons about respecting and protecting the lifeblood of all people: water. Continuing from the previous discussion on the future of water in Native American communities, it is important to recognize that water symbolizes much more than just survival. It represents resilience, renewal, and the ongoing relationship between people and the natural world. As indigenous peoples face the complexities of the 21st century, water remains a central thread weaving together history, culture, and hope. One of the remarkable aspects of Native American water stewardship is its foundation in a worldview that sees humans as part of a larger web of life. This holistic perspective contrasts with many modern approaches that treat water as a commodity or mere resource. For indigenous communities, water's health is inseparable from the health of the land, animals, and all living beings. This understanding fosters a deep sense of responsibility and respect that guides environmental action. Efforts to revitalize traditional water ceremonies and teachings have gained momentum in recent years. These practices not only reconnect people to ancestral knowledge, but also serve as acts of cultural preservation and political assertion. In many tribes, water ceremonies have been revived or adapted to raise awareness about environmental issues, advocate for water protection, and strengthen cultural identity. Moreover, these ceremonies offer healing, both for individuals and communities. The trauma inflicted by colonization, forced relocation, and environmental degradation has left deep scars. Water rituals provide a spiritual framework for addressing these wounds, promoting renewal and unity. They remind participants that despite centuries of hardship, water continues to flow, carrying the stories and strength of their ancestors. In addition to spiritual renewal, indigenous-led environmental restoration projects are tangible examples of resilience in action. These projects often focus on restoring natural water flows, rehabilitating wetlands, and reintroducing native species. By healing damaged ecosystems, communities restore essential habitats for fish, birds, and plants that sustain traditional diets and cultural practices. For instance, salmon restoration efforts in the Pacific Northwest involve collaboration between tribal governments, scientists, and conservation groups. Salmon hold profound cultural and spiritual significance for many tribes, symbolizing renewal and the cycle of life. Restoring salmon runs also helps rebuild ecosystems and supports tribal economies. Education and youth engagement remain vital to ensuring these efforts endure. Programs that teach traditional ecological knowledge alongside modern science empower young people to become future water stewards. They learn not only the technical skills necessary for conservation, but also the cultural values that inspire stewardship. Another dimension of future water resilience is political empowerment. Indigenous communities continue to assert their rights on local, national, and international stages. Water sovereignty is a key element of tribal sovereignty, recognizing tribes as the rightful managers and protectors of their water resources. Legal victories, policy reforms, and advocacy campaigns all contribute to strengthening these rights. Internationally, Indigenous water rights are gaining recognition in frameworks like the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, UNDRIP. This global acknowledgement supports Indigenous claims to protect sacred water sites and participate meaningfully in environmental governance. However, challenges persist. Climate change, ongoing industrial development, and political resistance pose serious threats. The struggle to protect water remains intertwined with broader fights for land rights, environmental justice, and cultural survival. Yet, the continued activism and innovation of Native American communities demonstrate that hope is alive. In conclusion, water stands as a powerful symbol of resilience and renewal in Native American futures. It connects past, present, and future generations through cultural practices, environmental stewardship, and political advocacy. The stories, ceremonies, and efforts surrounding water remind us that the health of human communities is deeply tied to the health of the waters that sustain them. As this series comes to a close, reflecting on the vital role of water in Native American life invites us all to rethink our relationship with this precious resource. To honor water as a sacred gift is to commit to protecting it, for the sake of all who depend on it, today and tomorrow.